Could you, if you wouldn't mind, just back up a little bit? Thank you. Would you please? Could you back up a little bit? Just a little bit further back, if you don't mind. Just back up a little bit. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. I have a lot of information that I'd like to get through. First of all, let me start with information about the sheen of diesel on the 17th Street Canal that is overnighting today. Orleans and Jefferson Fire and Homeland Security responded to an odor and sheen. It's becoming clear that it is likely getting into the 7th Street Canal from a backup storage tank at the Sewage and Water Board's Central Power Plant. The actual cause is still being determined. There is no impact to drinking water because we get water from the Mississippi River. We will keep you posted as we get additional information. Chief McConnell is here to answer detailed questions because he has been the incident commander from our perspective on this matter. Now on to the August 5th flooding. New Orleans Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness is currently in the process of conducting damage assessments along with state officials. Due to the highly localized flooding and the differences block by block in flooding impacts, the city is conducting individual outreach door to door. The Office of Economic Development is conducting outreach to businesses. The city encourages anyone with questions on the debris collection, flood assessment, or flood cleanup to call 311, as this helps the city get more information about specific impact and flooding. According to FEMA, between 600 and 800 insurance claims have been filed in New Orleans through its National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP. The city has also requested assistance from the U.S. Small Business Administration. We're also opening Flood Recovery Resource Center this week to provide flood-affected residents and businesses additional access to information and to resources. A National Flood Insurance Program specialist will be available to answer questions to residents and business owners. Additionally, several community organizations will be present to inform the public of any available resources. The Flood Recovery Resource Center will be hosted at Corpus Christi Epiphany Community Resource Center at 2022 St. Bernard Avenue. The entrance is at the corner of North Galvez and on Zaga Street during the following days and times. And, of course, we'll post these on our website. Today, Wednesday, August 16th, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday, August 17th, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Friday, August 13th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Saturday, August 19th, 10 a.m. To 2 p.m. For more information on flood recovery resources, residents and business owners should visit our website or they should call 311. On Saturday, August 5th, more and more information has been coming available. We have released an RFP for a third-party after-action root cause analysis, and there will be plenty of time to digest what went wrong and why. This is critically important to us. Ultimately, as you know, I am responsible, and I am going to fix it. And I won't rest until we get what we need to be safe. As I said earlier this week, it's now clear to me that the system has never been at 100% operational or 100% of its capacity. The major issues, as I have outlined, for the Sewage and Water Board infrastructure relating what we're immediately addressing fall into three general categories: power, pumps, and manpower. We also have issues with the City Public Works Department. Those two issues are catch basins and minor drains. So there's going to be a look back. Right now we're focused on securing the system and hurricane preparedness, and then there's going to be a look forward about operational changes and structural reforms. With better information and additional expertise on the ground, we're beginning to implement a plan of action to fix our broken infrastructure and to address our manpower challenges, particularly with pump operators. We're creating a better path forward for a safer, better operating system for us all. Currently, we're engaged with CH2M to manage the process of fixing our downed turbines, bringing in additional technical contractor and labor support to fix what is broken. They are also responsible for bringing in additional equipment to have backup power sources. That would be generators, transformers, feeders, and other equipment. And they are managing fixing the pumps that are broken in as short a time as possible. 5 different contractors are beginning work 24/7 to fix pumps that are out of service. So now on to the power situation. Turbine 1 is up and operating. With turbine number 6 and Entergy Power, we will have enough to handle our water and sewer systems plus drainage capacity for the normal rains that we experience. Today, our power supply continues to be where we were on or before Saturday, the 5th, before the storm. But with the addition of backup diesel generators to provide redundancy, that we did not have before with Entergy Power. This is good progress. The 26 2-megawatt generators are all on site, and most of them are now operational. In addition to providing power to the central plant and frequency changes, we're also in the process of deploying generators to individual pump stations that, of course, will give us redundancy. It's going to take some time to get those connected and operational. We'll keep you updated when they are. While this is in progress and it puts us a more stable place, until we have the additional turbines come back online, which could be several weeks, there's going to continue to be some risk to our drainage capacity. So at this time, the system's capacity to drain stormwater from the streets is diminished in a heavy rain for the East Bank of New Orleans, west of the Industrial Canal. This power issue does not affect New Orleans East, the lower Ninth Ward, or Algiers. Now, on the issue of pumps, we currently have 104 pumps of 120 pumps available to be operational. The C pump at Drainage Pumping Station 6 was fixed and running late yesterday afternoon. That has 1,000 CFS. The remaining 16 that are out of service are beginning emergency repairs for completion over the next several weeks. In addition to what we know is broken, there is also likely capacity and maintenance issues with other pumps that are operational. So we have engaged another team of experts to assess the true capacity of all of our pumps to determine if additional fixes need to be made to get them to full capacity if they're not there now. This will also help us know what the system's real capacity is so we can all plan in real time with the best information for the future. Crews are beginning to work 24/7 on emergency repairs. We will post the status of individual pumps and the schedule for repairs at the Sewage and Water Board site. Now on to the issue of manpower. We need 24/7 staffing for our pump stations, so our contractors and regional partners are going to be bringing in pump operators so that all of our stations can be manned. We are also in the process of hiring from the civil service list as well. All of this work is going to be paid for at this time with the Sewage and Water Board rainy day reserve funds. We continue to work on estimates which increase each day, though we have only $85 million available. We will give you updated financials as we proceed. On the issue of catch basins and drain lines, our public work team has developed a plan to clean and repair approximately 15,000 catch basins and drain lines. For anybody's information, there are 60,000 catch basins in the city of New Orleans. This will focus on areas where 311 already has an identified list, as well as areas most prone to flooding. We will be adding to our capacity with temporary labor from our workforce development programs and leasing trucks and drivers from private contractors. The citizens can be very helpful in this regard, too. We're going to have more details that are going to be presented to the City Council over the next few days. We expect that the cost of this particular project will be $22 million. Also, on the city side, we're moving forward with a request for proposal for the root cause analysis, the look back that we talked about. And we have put out bids for the underpass early warning system, which will have sensors that drop gates and flash lights once an underpass has begun to flood. All of these items are going to be discussed at the special meeting of the City Council tomorrow. Finally, I'm asking the City Council to make available $3 million to be able to move quickly should we need funds in the event of, and only in the event of, a tropical storm or a hurricane. Since early last week, Homeland Security, GOSEP, FEMA, and the Army Corps of Engineers, at my request, have been preparing for potential tropical activity. We will have a tabletop activity later this week and run through various scenarios to make sure that we are absolutely prepared in the event that we have that kind of threat as well. We want everybody at home to make sure they have a plan as well, identical to the ones that we talked about when we began hurricane season, with the new information that we have available. Of course, nothing can get done during hurricane season without the help of the citizens of New Orleans. Again, let me say this. I don't think there's any reason to panic. We just need to be prepared. If you need help, go to ready.nola.gov to learn how you can make your own plan. Let's talk about the weather. According to the National Weather Service, we expected to have a 70% chance of rain today. As with any summer thunderstorm, there could be isolated areas with heavy rain up to 2 inches. Again, big picture, we believe we have what we need in the event of a typical rainfall, but we still do not have what we need in the event of a deluge or a major rain event, or, God forbid, a major tropical storm or hurricane. Again, out of the abundance of caution and because of a likelihood of rain throughout the week, we just all need to be vigilant. During heavy rainfall, I'm urging residents in the affected area to move their vehicles to higher ground, take necessary actions to protect personal property, and stay off of the roadways unless an emergency makes it absolutely necessary to do so. In the event of heavy rain or flooding, we are reminding residents to call 911 to report street flooding or life-threatening emergencies. Residents are advised to remain indoors during heavy rainfall. The city has launched a new website, streetwise.nola.gov. streetwise.nola.gov. This is a website for viewing real-time reports of flooding and accidents from 911 calls. To see in real time where reported traffic accidents and street floodings are occurring, visit http://streetwise.nola.gov. Out of the abundance of caution, the New Orleans Police Department has staged barricades in 20 areas prone to flooding, including underpasses. Again, as a precaution at this time, we have staged high water vehicles and other response vehicles to be used in the event of flooding. We also have sandbags available at 2 locations, the intersection of Elysian Fields Avenue and I-610, South Broad Street Avenue and Parger Street. Sandbags are no longer being offered at Perdido Street and South Lopez Street, but we can reopen this site and other sites across the city should the need arise. For those seeking more information or that are interested in registering for the Special Needs Registry, please call 311. 311 is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Every day right now, including weekends. Our Emergency Operations Center will remain open and staffed. The city will keep residents updated through email alerts at NOLA Ready Twitter account. In closing, let me summarize and say again, we're working around the clock and we're taking aggressive action. We're responding to the flooding. We are immediately stabilizing the system by fixing the sewer ward power, pumps and manpower, DPW catch basins and drain lines. We're analyzing working pumps and turbines to see if we can identify true capacity and identify short and long-term infrastructure fixes. We have released an RFP for an independent third-party after-action report of the July 22nd and August 5th floods. We're preparing for hurricane season and tropical events. Now, in the coming days, as we continue to stabilize the system, we will discuss our work to bring in an interim emergency management team as a bridge to a longer-term management changes or a search for a new director. And the future, together as a community, we have to begin to map out a plan forward with governance and funding options for the next mayor and for the next city council, which we will do. Right now, my focus is on fixing what is broken and stabilizing this organization and then preparing for hurricane season. This is our team's top priority and our focus right now. It's what I'm doing morning, noon, and night. Still today, we continue to learn a lot and want to provide confirmed information in real time with you, the public, to be fully transparent. That's our obligation. It's my commitment. We're making progress, but we still need to remain vigilant, and we will continue to keep you updated to learn more. I would like Chief McConnell to talk a bit about the Sheen, and then I'll be here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Chief McConnell.
Thank you, sir. Late last night, about almost 10 o'clock, Jefferson Parish and New Orleans Fire Department started receiving complaints via 911 of an odor in the area of the Leonidas Canal around Metairie Road and the DPS number 6 pump station. Both departments responded to various calls. At around 11:14, we got a call. Our hazmat office, hazmat unit responded to it. They were responding to a call for a sheen on the water in that Leonidas Canal outside of the DPS station. It turned out to be a sheen of diesel. We had a contractor, or Surgeon Water Board, I should say, had a contract on the scene that immediately applied boom that would collect and prevent the sheen from getting into the pumping station, and actually was applied to both sides of the station to ensure that if any had gotten past, it would catch that too and not get into the lake. Due to darkness, we couldn't continue to investigate where it came from, but it was concrete and determined that it did not come from pump station number 6. At daybreak, we had units out there immediately at the intersection of the Leonidas and Palmetto Canal and began to investigate, which means going up the canal, continue tracing the sheen till you try and find its source. That went up the canal to Claiborne, to the underground canal on Claiborne Avenue, up Leonidas Street, and it was determined that we believe, although the investigation is still ongoing, that we're fairly confident that the source of the leak was a fuel tank, a 1 million-gallon diesel fuel tank on the Surgeon Water Board facility. That tank is there in the event of an emergency as backup fuel for operations at the Surgeon Water Board plant, should they lose their regular source of power, which would be natural gas. The tank is contained in a diked containment area, which would be, if the tank ever leaks, to contain the fuel in that from that diesel backup storage. We did find some diesel in there, and although we feel fairly confident that that's our source, we have not yet determined how it got from inside the containment area into this storm and, or I should say, drainage and sewer system. So we're trying to determine that now. There is no threat to public safety. Drinking water is not affected. Cleanup crews are on the scene. They are using the cleanup materials to collect the fuel that's there. They have suction trucks that are collecting the fuel that's in the containment area, and we are still investigating on how to determining how it got out of that containment area and into the system. All proper notifications were made, legal notifications that need to be made for us for any hazmat incident to state police, Coast Guard, Department of Environmental Quality. Our neighbors in Jefferson Parish were notified, Levy District, Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, and many other agencies, not many other, but all the other agencies that respond with on these type of incidents. At this point, I do want to emphasize, no threat to public safety. It does not affect drinking water. It's in the cleanup process, and as the investigation continues, obviously, in any hazmat incident, we want to contain the leak. We want to determine the source, stop the leak, and clean up the spilled material. And we'll continue to keep the public updated as we go through this process.
Thank you, Chief. All right, Paul.
Do we know how much of that material leaked out? Is it being measured at this point?
We do not know an exact amount at this time because we don't know the source. We're not concrete on where the source is as far as, like I said, we're confident it's in from that tank, and we know it's in the diked area, but we can't figure out how it got from point A to point B. So that is still under investigation. We're trying to find. We do not know the quantity. We have not been able to determine the quantity at this point. That is part of our investigation to determine the exact quantity so we know how much we got to clean up too.
So we're out at the pumping station number 6 last night. I was there to do some live reporting, and we started smelling that diesel as early as 6 p.m. So any idea what the time frame of the leaking was or when?
We do not know. We have some reports. I had not received a report that early. Our first calls came in. The first call came in to Jefferson Parish, actually closer to 9 o'clock. Our first call came in at 11:14.
Anything else?
Okay. Is this tank regularly inspected for problems to determine whether there's a risk of leaking?
I'm not sure. I know that they are, that's a Sewage and Water Board facility. I do know that the containment area, is there. It's intact, and it does have, pumps on it and everything to keep the area free of water and everything. So at this point, we don't have any reason to believe that it had been compromised before, but somehow there's a leak from the system into the diked area. We're just trying to figure out how it got from point A to point B.
After we did those...
Yeah, and just one other question. When, at the meeting, at the Sewage and Water Board meeting, and we're just now beginning to focus on that manpower component that you were talking about, it appeared to us, when you're looking at 290 vacancies and 240 some odd personnel looking at retirement out of a budgeted 1,500 number of employees, that component appears to be just as dire as some of the other challenges at the Sewage and Water Board. Is that your appreciation?
Well, as you should know, we have been spending a lot of time talking about this over the past many years with civil service reform. This is not something new and or surprising to any of us. Of course, when you look at an organization and you think about manpower, you see this in the police department too. How are you going to keep the people that you have? How are you going to replace the ones that you lose? This is always a critical issue. And this has been something we've been ringing the bell about for a very, very long period of time. So, yes, I'm worried about it. That is why I continue to instruct them today to make sure that the Sewage and Water Board HR folks are talking to the city civil service people to make sure that we can expedite as much as possible the ability to hire the best people that we can. Some of these things have to do not just with the availability of manpower, but whether people actually want to work there because of benefits and salaries and a whole bunch of classifications. Civil service reform was one of the things we started 7 years ago, and it's one of the things we've been talking about for a very long time. So I would urge all of the folks that are working on the civil service side, all of the folks that are working at Sewage and Water Board and HR, all of the folks that are working in HR, the police department, to continue to talk about ways that we can hire very competent people that will stay with us rather than go away. Yes, I'm sorry, David.
After we did the story about the Sewage and Water Board's emergency declaration in March, you said that they failed to ring the bell. But your deputy mayor, Jeff Hebert, made the motion to approve that report, and your other deputy mayor, Senator Grant, was at that meeting as well and fully aware. Why were they not ringing the bell?
I don't know. We're going to have to find that out as part of the after-action report. But that issue was not brought to me. If someone brought me an issue that said to me, all of the turbines are out, the city is at risk, we would have taken the actions that we're taking right now. So I think the after-action report will show that.
But Jeff Weber is your designee on the board, and he made a motion to approve it.
It causes me, I don't know the answer to that question. It causes me concern. The chairman pro tem was there. Other board members were there. It was a public meeting. The press never reported on it. And so it's an issue that I think that we have to look at. But this is what ringing the bell looks like. Everybody in this city knows that the power generation at the Sewage and Water Board was compromised severely from Katrina. Everybody knows, because of all of the discussions that we've had about the $2 billion that we've gotten on the water and sewer side, that because of the boil water advisories, that we had issues with the power generation at the Sewage and Water Board. Everybody knows that we were able to generate $150 million in new dollars, and we're using that right now to build 2 water tower plants that all of you covered when we were there. That's a separate and distinct problem from the immediate emergency that, okay, wait a minute, our redundancy just went down. Everybody also knows that we've been in discussions with Entergy to firm up the transmission lines over to the Sewage and Water Board. This is an event, it was almost a perfect storm that is it's unbelievable that it happened, but it all happened at one time. So I'm very concerned about that. Had somebody rung the bell with me, I'd be doing then what I'm doing today, because this is what it looks like when you ring the bell. So the after-action report's going to show that. I'll be happy to be available to talk about all of that stuff. We're going to have a third-party after-action report so that we don't do it ourselves, that you guys can trust what information we learn. I would prefer not to comment on the substance of any of those things for fear of misstating a fact. I don't want to do that, but I know that's going to show what it's going to show, and we'll deal with that as we get there. I just want the public to understand. I'm ultimately responsible. I'm the mayor of this city. We have been in partnership with the city council, a lot of other people, in one of the greatest rebuilds that we've seen in a very long time. We've gotten a lot of great stuff done. This was a failure. There's no way around that. This was a problem, and it caused circumstances that put us at risk. In some ways, it's connected to, but separate and distinct, actually, from the August 5th event, but necessarily a part of it when you talk about chain of commands and resources and how you do that. One of the members of the Sewage and Water Board today continued to raise the issue about the drainage system. This should not be a surprise to anybody, that the sewer and water systems are fairly well funded now because of the rate increase. The drainage system is not. That has been known to the public forever. And it has also been known to the public forever that we have a $547 million backlog that we know of relating to the drainage system. So as we go through all of this, we now have to kind of look at it honestly, know what happened, know what we have to do going forward, and then we'll prepare for that as needed.
Well, just a quick follow-up on the
Sure.
power issue. Turbine number 4 has been down since January of 2012, and then we were told that it was going to be done by the end of this year, but now it's been moved up to September, that it might be back online in September.
Correct.
Why did it take almost 6 years, and now when this happens, suddenly it can get done in a couple months?
Well, okay. First of all, hopefully the after-action report will give you more information about that. But even though it is, without going through a whole colloquy about power, we have 25-cycle power and we have 60-cycle power, and it is a fairly unique energy generation system. That particular pump had to get completely refurbished, not just fixed, and it was in the process of getting fixed. It was supposed to be finished in December. So one of the things we did was ask them to just really work hard to move it up to 6 weeks. That's not like you could just snap your fingers and move it up 3 years. So the after-action report will show all of that stuff. What is of concern to me, and one of the reasons why I'm concerned about ringing the bell, is because when all of the turbines go out at once and you don't have the redundancy, it puts you at risk. And that is the essential narrow focus that's really important, that is of concern to me right now. Now, we can spend a lot of time on that today, and it's okay if you want to, but I really would prefer, because the record is what it is, and people knew what they knew and said what they said. That's back looking. What I'm doing right now that I want to make sure everybody knows that I'm focused on, and this team of people standing by me, is we're going to secure the system. Under the umbrella of securing the system, you got power, you got pumps, you got manpower, and you have catch basins. The second thing that we have to keep focused on, like a laser beam, for the next 3 weeks at least, is hurricane preparation. I don't want to panic anybody. There's no need to do that, except to say that you have to have a plan, and the metrics for when people move and where they put their cars and how we handle this to protect life is more. So that's why this week I'm focused on that. The fourth thing that we have to focus on is a matter for this administration and this council and the next mayor and the next council about long-term transition into whatever organizational structure might be necessary. I will hasten to report, though, and all of you know this as well, that when we got here, we began to reform the civil service system. The board that exists now is a board that was appointed as a result of the reforms that we put in place for people that were recommended to us, but we will go back through that again. And, of course, the next mayor and the city council will have to take all of the stuff that we've done and think about what they want to do in the future. All right, yes. Let me just, I'll go ahead, Dan. Sure.
5 went out in July. It's supposed to be back up next week. Now it's just TBD. Do you have any word on what?
I don't,
That's the one where we're trying to bring in the 25 generator.
That's an excellent question. I do not know the exact answer. One of the things we're trying to do to create clarity and redundancy is bring in a number of generators that, when put together, equal the amount of output that that turbine does, and then be able to move those things around so that we can have security and we can have redundancy. I don't have an exact time. It's not that much further away, and it's just a timing thing. I don't want to give you a definitive answer until we know. But we think that we have a better plan than just fixing that one like it is and putting it back. We think we can do two things for, a good investment and make the system sounder and more resilient.
Kind of touch on
You touched on
the amount.
Wait, hold on, Dave, if you don't mind. I'll come back.
So, just real quick,
If you don't mind.
excuse me, so right now, 60,000 catch basins in the city.
65.
65,000.
Thank you, Ryan.
That was what we were quoted this morning in this morning's meeting, so thank you for that. 15,000 challenged, 3,700 are requiring extensive work.
Correct.
How are we in that situation in the middle of hurricane season? And if you're able to touch on this as well, we have another reporter working on this. Has any projects been halted as a result of any of the recent staff changes, specifically the 500 to 800 block of Bourbon Street?
I'm going to make a general comment again to just remind everybody. This city has a huge amount of needs and not nearly enough money to do all of them. That's true about the airport. It's true about NORD. It's true about everything. And you can't just snap your fingers, and if money wasn't an issue and manpower wasn't an issue, we would fix them. Now, as it relates to catch basins, which is a small part of that, those issues have been around for a bit. One of the reasons why individuals who are responsible for this are no longer with us is because the council allocated money early. We didn't get that to the ground as fast as we should. That is being ramped up now. Now, let me just globally. There's 65,000 catch basins. Thank you for correcting me on that number. One of the things that has to happen with catch basins is neighbors and homeowners can help a lot by making sure their catch basins that are not broken are cleaned out. The second thing that the public can do to help a lot is to stop throwing things in the canals. There are lots of huge debris. That kind of stuff has to be cleaned out. Now, for those that are working and are functional, that's a good thing, and we ought to have a citywide cleanup day, and that ought to be recurring every time a hurricane or a storm or a heavy rain comes. The 15,000 are the ones that we seem to have a little bit more information about that are more impaired, that can't be cleaned just by staying on the outside. You have to lift up the thing, which I would not advise citizens to do. Let experts do this, come in and then clean it out. And there are some that need drainage point repairs, which are the 3,000 or so that have been reported to us through 311 and then other complaints that have been made through the council member's office. We will have engineers and experts and folks that know how to do this analyze those and then detail what work needs to be done and how much that's going to cost. The best estimate, based on the work that Danny Galloway has done, along with other engineers, is that it's going to cost $22 million to start the work on that. Of course, repairing 65,000 of them, if we need it, is more, and we'll figure that out as we go along.
Mr. Mayor, able to talk anything about the
David, I'm going to come back to you, I promise you.
changes? Has that impacted any other projects in the city?
Well, at some point in time, the money's going to have to come from someplace. So what we are suggesting to the City Council and the Sewage and Water Board is to take funding that was supposed to fund projects that weren't supposed to start for 4 or 5 years. Because remember, as I told you, with the money that we have a 5 or 10-year plan. We were going to spend X amount of dollars over a project, take that money and move it up. Would have given the next mayor and the next City Council a way to replace that money. But we will have a very clear delineation of what we're doing, how much it's going to cost, where it's coming from, and then what the total cost is going to be for all of the things that we're talking about. Okay? David, thank you.
Just on the management issues going forward, do you have a response to the young lady from the Sierra Club who spoke
Sure.
at the meeting today and being concerned about a emergency management contract without an end date or a sunset turning into privatization?
I think I have been clear about this, but since I haven't, I'll say it again. I am not going to sign any long-term contracts that change dramatically the nature, the scope, or the operation of the Sewerage and Water Board. That means to me nothing past my term of office. If I had my way, I wouldn't sign a contract that was longer than December 31st. If I can sign one shorter than that, I will do it. It is my intent to bring in an emergency management team that will secure the system. Let me tell you about what that means. There is the Sewage and Water Board building. In that building, for day-to-day operations, you have customer service, you have HR, you have IT, you have contract flow, just the day-to-day business. That organization is not in an emergency state like the pumping and the electrical system is. However, it is in need of organizational management. So that's part A. Part B, as I have said to you, is you've got power, you've got pumps, and you've got manpower. All of that stuff has to be managed. It has to be under an umbrella of folks, and they have to report to the board and to the president of the board, and then eventually to the city council, and then to the mayor. And so it's that group that is going to do that. And the contracts that we're signing today, by the way, which are being reviewed by the Inspector General, will be as short as they can be, and only as long as they have to be with the next mayor and the next city council, because I'm fully respectful of this, and we have a 6-month transition. There will be absolute continuity between the next mayor and the next city council and this mayor and this city council about what a transition plan looks like, and hopefully have a blue ribbon commission of folks that help us figure some of this stuff out. We'll get to that soon. And we're not, I'm sorry, we are not privatizing the Sewage and Water Board. Now, people have a lot of different ideas about what that is. Public-private partnerships equal that for some. Co-private, I'll let them argue about that. She seemed to be indicating that any time you sign a contract with a private contractor, like, see it, that's privatization. I'll let people argue about that later. What I need to do is bring in some really, strong people that help us stabilize this situation, and then we'll work through, what's going to happen next with the other folks. But I'm not going to bind the next mayor and the next administration.
Your Public Works Director said that they didn't.
Which Public Works Director? My last one or this one?
The last one.
Okay.
Said that before the storm that there needed to be environmental review before the drainage phase would start. Is that still true?
For the ones with the BP money.
I'm going to answer that question technically for you because I don't know exactly what dollar he's talking about. But as the city knows, we have a lot of folks helping us pay for. Some of it is taxpayer dollars that go into the general fund. Some of it are federal dollars that come from FEMA. Some of them are federal dollars that come from other departments like Community Development Block Grant. If a federal dollar is attached to a program, there are some federal requirements that make you do or not do certain things. Be that as it may, even if that is true, there is a quicker way to do it rather than a slower way to do it, and I'm always for the quick way. So I don't know exactly what Mr. Jernigan, Colonel Jernigan was referring to, but even if it required an environmental review, again, if someone comes and rings the bell with me and says, the city council, you and the city council gave us money, you told me to get this done, I cannot get this done because of X, what I do 100% of the time is pick up the phone and figure out how to get it done. And if I couldn't get it done, I would find another source of revenue. I do that every day, all day. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I have, as you know, a fairly strong ability to get that done. Yes, Paul.
There's a couple of issues having to deal with funding for these emergency procurements. You have stated that there is $547 million in unmet needs for the drainage system alone.
Correct.
You've also stated that you have a bucket of money of $85.3 million in rainy day funds from the Sewage and Water Board by which you could spend on these projects. First of all, do you think there will come a day where you'll have to dip into the city's general fund to help make a difference? And secondly, Mr. Miller mentioned at the Sewage and Water Board that he had to meet with bond counsel to see what the impact would be if you spent down that $85.3 million and what that does to the bond rating for the Sewage and Water Board.
Called the material event.
Yeah.
You want me to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. This is actually a problem that the city of New Orleans has never been in the position to have before. Because when we got here, there was a $100 million hole in the budget. Our bond status was in the gutter. We had no rainy day fund, and there was no good fiscal management of either one of the systems. It is really a noteworthy thing that the city of New Orleans right now has balanced its budget every year, had revenue estimating conferences that met, have made sure that we have money in the bank when there's an emergency like this, so that we're not here telling you, oh my goodness, we have got to go rip apart the whole city on one side to fix the other. That is a very good place to be in, and I want to thank the council members for being so fiscally prudent that we actually have the ability to respond to a crisis as unnerving as this particular crisis is. It is likewise true, as many people have so vociferously criticized the Sewage and Water Board in the last couple of days. It's worth noting that in their money management practices at the Sewage and Water Board, they not only have a 90 days in reserve, they have 180 days in reserve, which the credit agencies have used to give them one of the highest credit ratings, and we now have a reserve fund to take care of what we think the cost is going to be. Now, let me stop there and say what we think. We're not sure yet what the total cost is going to be. For somebody who knows how to add better than I do, you would say, gosh, if you have $547 million in needs and you only have $85 million in cash, that seems to be a gulf. How are you going to do that? The $547 million has been there for a while. It's long term. This is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with by the people. If there's not a funding source for that, the capital infrastructure is going to continue to deteriorate. Be that as it may, we now have enough cash to take care of what we think the problems are going to be. I say that because I don't know what this this analysis is going to show about what the immediate needs of the pump stations are. If they come back and say that we need more money to fix the pump stations, I'm going to recommend to everybody that I can that we spend it. All right, so we're going to walk through that. Now, there is I don't know what the trigger point is for you, Paul, but Bob will tell us this when they talk to the bond rating agencies. If we go below a certain amount, what would that mean to us? And then we would have to bring it to the board to say, look, if you spend this down, are you willing to risk a downgrade in your credit rating? To do this, unfortunately, we didn't really have that choice 10 years ago, so we had to spend whatever we could. Next question is it going to affect the city general fund? I hope that nothing that's going on at the Sewage and Water Board will affect the city's general fund. I did tell you that some city general fund money is coming out of it in order to take care of the catch basins. We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to walk through this on a daily basis and then figure out how to pathway forward. We won't be able to do that until we get the capacity reports that are being done by the independent folks that are working on it. And we'll get back to you about that.
Is that the $22 million
Yeah.
catch basin
Yes.
coming out of the city's general fund?
Capital.
Well, it's coming. There's some of it, yes. Some of it's coming out of the capital fund, and some of it's coming out of the reserve that we created, the rainy day fund, the other day. And again, I know that we're in a tough time, but I do want to take a moment to highlight that fiscal responsibility has put us in a much better position than the city's ever been to respond to emergencies that, in this instance, you never want to have. So thank you. You're welcome.
How important are these resilience projects, the urban water projects that are planned in this whole scheme of trying to deal with
Well, it's critically important. So just for the public, again, the Sewage and Water Board has made a lot of progress, of course, in partnership with the City Council and the Chief Resiliency Officer to make the city safer. So one of the things we're talking about is ponds, so that when water comes, it can actually go. City Park is a great retention pond. It's really big. Pontiff is a nice one. City Park's a nice one too. And so all of the things we're talking about is how the city can manage water flow and not just using power to pump it out, because, of course, everybody knows we got a gravity issue because we're in a bowl. And one of the challenges is you need a lot of power to pump high and to pump out, and that's not the only way to do it. The Dutch have indicated to us that you got to figure out how to live with water rather than live against the water, and I think we have to think about that as well as we're thinking about power generation. All right. Anybody else? Kevin?
Were some of the pumps that went down installed post-Katrina as storm-proofing?
I don't. Answer that question again, please.
Were some of the pumps that went down installed post-Katrina
As
as storm-proofing?
storm-proofing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can I get back to you on that? Yeah. Can we report back? All right. Anybody else? Paul, you get to start and end. Hammer's just kind of in the middle. I don't need sleep. I'm good. I'm good to go. But thank you.
Would you say that this would be one of the biggest challenges that you've had as mayor? I know you've had some coming out of Katrina, but this still seems to be putting you on the map for not good reasons.
Well, I don't know that I would agree with that. As the public knows by now, I was a lieutenant governor of the state before I became mayor. I have ridden through Katrina, Rita, Ike, Gustav, the recession as it related to economics, the BP oil spill, the tornado, and this. I have been there and back. They're all difficult. This one is complicated and it's hard. Katrina, as you know, damaged 500,000 homes, hurt 200,000, 1,800 of our citizens. There's nothing that approximates the intensity of that experience. I'm very mindful that everybody who gets hurt in a storm, whether they lose their car or they lose their house, it is an awful situation, and my heart goes out to them. Many of us have been involved in that ourselves. I have many members of my staff whose houses got flooded and their cars got flooded, so we feel it and we're in it. It's hard to compare that to me being woken up at night on a fairly regular basis about people that are shot in funerals that I've been to. It is part of the job. And as I have said before, what is frustrating about this one is this was clearly a failure and clearly a mistake. And we have to correct the mistake and we have to fix it. And we are going to do that. And I'm going to take the actions that are necessary, as I have done. But this is what it looks like when we ring the bell, what we're doing now. And we're never reticent to do it. We're always willing to do it. And so we'll figure it out and we'll get better next time. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Dave.
Can I move my legs? I know.
Sorry.